Mike Lajoie is giving our message today. It's his testimony. Mike received a double lung transplant. He's had some minor surgery recently that forces him to leave a cap on his head, so don't worry about that. At any rate, we are delighted that you are here, Mike. Come share with us.
I've got to turn this machine on. I'm really techie. No. Okay. Can you hear me? All right. I did all right. I grew up about a mile from here. Well, I didn't grow up. My summer of '68, my older brother Ricky was killed overseas. So my family bought a farm next to Joe Davis, right across from the road from Peter Spooner. So the Fosdicks was my stepfather's name and my mom. And there was a few brothers behind me. Some of you might have gone to school with them or might have known who the Fosdick boys were. Well, Stephen is in Texas and has a church that he's a pastor of in Texas. Two of the boys, Kevin and Roy, are in Minnesota. Jeff and Roddy in Texas. Jeff and Roddy and Steve are in Texas. And of course, you know, Morris passed away. He was in a car accident, motorcycle accident. So some of you know who I was in my high school years. Carl, Nancy, and Judy. They knew that I was, if you pardon the word, not so good. I was going to use a different word, but I'm changing my language as I'm going. But Carl and I, Steve Anderson, we were very mischievous. And I'm doing that lightly, Carl, because I don't want to go into details what we used to do. But it's funny how that God will bring you to a place that you give your life over to Him. 1975, I found Christ, and I've not looked back since. But I'm here to tell you about the lung transplant. In 2016, I was at the Pascal Hospital. They put me in for a week. Couldn't find out what was wrong with me. Thought I had bronchitis. They did more testing and more testing. Come to find out, I had idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. It's an incurable lung disease that there is no cure for. They can give you a medication that slows it down called Esbriet. It doesn't always work. It kept growing in my lungs, and it's also called the Velcro disease. When the doctors and nurses put the stethoscope on your lungs, it sounds like Velcro opening back and forth. It was in one lung and just started on the second lung, so they decided I went to see a pulmonologist in Portland. Great doctor. Megan Moore is a great doctor. If you ever have to get down here for anything in your lungs, she's the one you want to see. Great doctor. So I was with her. They pushed me to her in about 2019. And I wasn't using the oxygen tanks. I had the machine on the side of the bed. You know, that one goes every 30 seconds, so you can't sleep. But I didn't have that. I wouldn't use the oxygen tanks, and my pastor's wife went into church and, where's your oxygen? It's in the truck. Why aren't you using it? I know, it's pride. I said, yep, it is. I didn't want to bring it into church. I didn't want to wear it. I would wear it at home. I would use it at home. But I just felt I was big enough to not need it. Well, so my pulmonologist, Dr. Moore, told me, she said, Mike, if you don't use it, you'll never get your lungs. They have to see just how bad you are. You're hiding it from them by not using the oxygen. And it was. They sent us to Boston, Brigham and Women's Hospital, to a lung transplant team. The very first doctor I saw, I'm sorry, I'm as nervous as a cat on a hot tin roof right now. I'm just scared to death to talk. But they sent us to a doctor, a lung doctor, a specialist. And we walked in the door. He asked me, how do you pronounce your name? And I asked him, how do you pronounce yours? It's this long on the front door. I said, Lajoie. He said, my name is Dr. Tiny. I said, I can remember that. But he sat down with Kath and I, and he talked with us for 2 hours. What was going to happen, what could happen, and what possibly will happen. How much it was going to cost us, who we was going to need at home if to survive. And now I'm an emotional man. I cry like a crybaby because this is a lot to me. And I shared this Friday night and had all I could do to get through it. But we went back to the motel, Kath and I, and we sat there and we cried. We wept. Because we knew what was going to happen, we thought. We didn't want to go through how much it was going to cost, the thousands and thousands of dollars it was going to cost. The number of trips to Boston, or spending time. They wanted us to move down there, live down there after the transplant. If I got a transplant, I said, I can't afford to move down there. And I couldn't, still wouldn't. My wife wouldn't drop to Boston, through Boston if you gave her $100,000 or $1 million today. But February 2nd, 2022, my case was presented to the lung review team to see about putting it on the transplant list. February 16th, they called and said, you're on the list. You made the transplant list. I was number 40, which doesn't mean a thing, except you're on number 4. It doesn't matter how good or how bad you are, you're number 40. I said, okay. So in the meantime, they found out, the doctors down there, that I had a hiatal hernia. It was quite big and it was bothering me, and I had esophagus problems. I had heartburn so bad, and what do you call this stuff? Not just heartburn, but anyway. And so I had to go see a doctor down there. But they made appointments to go down on the 16th, and on the 20th, we had an appointment in Boston to see doctors in the morning at 6:30 in the morning. I had an appointment. Imagine going to Boston at 6:30 in the morning and have to see a doctor. So we were at Portsmouth, New Hampshire, with my son and his daughter and his wife, and the kids, and we headed to Boston about 4:30. Sun was shining, pretty day. I said on the way down, Kathy, wouldn't it be awesome if this would be the day they found a set of lungs? Save us from all of them trips, all that money we got to spend to come back and forth to the motel. She said, yeah, it would be awesome. So we went, had our appointments, had our appointment with the surgeon in the afternoon that was going to take care of the hiatal hernia, and we headed back to Portsmouth to see the kids, and we were going home. We were about 15 minutes out of Portsmouth, and the phone rang, and they told us in the beginning, if the phone rings, you don't recognize the number, you answer it anyway. So okay. So the phone rings, and Kathy answers the phone. She says, this is Michael Lajoie. No, this is his wife, and he's driving, and I'm taking his calls. Okay, well, this is Boston. We think we found a set of viable lungs for you. Turn around, come back. So we went to the motel, grabbed our suitcase luggage that we had for a weekend, headed back to Boston. Well, come to find out, the doctor that I saw about my hiatal surgery is also involved with the lung transplants, and he was going in the doctor's office, and they were talking about Michael Lajoie. They think they found a set of lungs for him. Well, he just left here. I just saw him for an appointment. So they called me, and that's why we came back. So we got back there at about 3 o'clock, and we're going in. They told us, when you get there, I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous. I really am. But we got into Boston. They said, when you get to Boston, go to the emergency room and tell them who you are and what you're there for. Okay. We drove in there, and they got these guys that come park your vehicles and stuff. I said, here's the keys. You can't park your vehicle. They said, look, they just called me and said they came in for surgery. They gave me the keys. He knew what was going on, yes. But took the truck, and Kathy and I went inside and took us into the emergency room. There was 50 people waiting to see. Golly. They said, you guys come on in this other room. We went into another room, and we sat there. They said, they'll be coming to see you pretty soon. I said, okay. They came in about 9 o'clock that night and said, well, you guys are spending the night here, and we'll just give you some blankets or something. And Kathy had a recliner that wouldn't go either way. She put the bottom part that comes up, she stuck her feet there so she could lean back and sleep. She didn't get much sleep, but anyway, I had a bed. Privileged character. But the next morning, they just took me down to the ER to get me ready, to prep me, get me ready. And 11:45, I can still hear Dr. Kennedy saying it now. It's a go. We're all set. Everything matches. Now, to do a lung transplant, blood type has to match. Chest cavity has to match. Lungs have to have some match. The donor, and I thank the family, I really do, can't have any sicknesses in his body that can be carried into mine. And they used to do single lung transplants years ago, but they would find that the existing lung in there would combat with the other one and wouldn't succeed. So they started doing double lung transplants, and the outcome was much better. So, 11:45, I go in for surgery. Kathy's still sitting out in the waiting room. 9 o'clock, my surgery was done. I was sent to ICU. New lungs. New lungs. All this time, my wife is in the waiting room, not knowing a thing. She called the nurse. The doctors will call you. They'll let you know what's going on. They'll find out what's going on. They'll let you know. They'll call you. Sorry, Deb. Doctors aren't always that way. She called him again. Said, look, I haven't heard nothing from my husband. Where is he at? Let me find out. He's on the 11th floor. She said, is that the morgue? No. So they told her, go up to the 11th floor and ring the buzzer, and you got to put a gown on because COVID was still going on. So she had the gown all up and stuff. And they said, we'll let you go in and see him, and you can't stay. So that's what she did. She got to see him, and then she had to leave. This was like midnight or later, and they taken our truck. They had to find a motel room. So at midnight, she's got the pickup back. She's going to a motel room to find a room. And you know how God works, little things out, just detailed. There was a motel a block away. Every time we go to Boston, we go there because it's just an easy walk to the hospital. God is so good. The lungs, I remember coming out of it, there was a lot of pain, and I didn't know what it was because they're still doped up. But I could feel the pain. And I heard one of the nurses say, just relax, Mike, just relax. I was coming out of anesthesia. So I come up, and other than that pain, I had nothing else for pain. And so the next day, she got me up and said, Mike, I need you to sit up. I want to listen to your lungs. So I sat up, and she said, take a deep breath. I took a deep breath. She said, take another one. I started crying. She said, what are you crying about? She said, it's been 6 years since I've been able to take a deep breath without choking and coughing and spitting up stuff. She cried with me. God is so good. On the 4th, 2 days later, they removed the ventilator. After the surgery, I found out that I had drainage tubes, 5 drainage tubes in these little containers to stuff to drain into. And to walk, I had to have a walker, of course. And one that has a seat in it, so if I got tired, I wanted to sit down. Well, I was a mailman, and I like to walk. And I worked on the farm, and I like to work. But the tubes were there for most of the stay, all the stay. It kept draining stuff out. And on the 5th, they started, I was walking with no pain. The doctor said they can't believe it. I was 70 years old, and I was walking with no pain from the lung transplant. The tubes are still there, but I had no pain from the transplant. I've got a scar, but I have no pain. God's good. God's good. I was in the recovery room, or in my room, and they gave me a special room that no one could go in except the nurses or your wife, and they had to gown all that, or your family, because it had, the temperature was controlled, air was controlled, had to have pure air coming in there all the time, so you're breathing. So one day the nurses came in and asked me, said, Mike, we have a student that'd like to interview you from Harvard. They're a medical student. I said, okay. Would you mind? I said, no, send them in. So they came in and they started talking about my lungs and asked me if I ever smoked. I said, yeah, not since 1975. I said, did you ever do any illicit drugs? I said, yes, but not since 1975. Did you ever do any drinking? I said, yes. When did you quit? 1975. Well, what happened in 1975? I said, I found Jesus Christ as my Savior. And I got to talking to them about Jesus. They left their tears running down their face. The very next day, same thing happened. They wanted another one to come in. One was a female, one was a guy, so I don't know which was which. But same thing, same questions. He got the same answers. He also walked out, tears running down his face. I love Christ more than anything else. My grandson asked me one time, Papa, do you love me more than Nani? I said, no. I said, I love Nani, but I love Jesus more than I love all of you. Why? Why, Papa? Because no one died for me but him. No one shed his blood for me but Jesus. And he knows that. During one of the nights in the hospital, I had excruciating pain in the side over here, on the right side. Come to find out, I was screaming. The pain was so bad. And I'm one that can take pain pretty well. But the nurse came in. She reminded me of one of the little candy strippers used to have it carried. They just come in trying to comfort you. But she couldn't bring me no comfort, and I let her know it. I said, you ain't helping me, but you better get a doctor in here. So, and I was saved, Jude, and I was being good. And they finally went and got a doctor. He came in and he had to give me some morphine to calm the pain. Come to find out, the fluid from this side was pushing the hiatal hernia into the lungs and into the tubes, and the pain was coming from that. So they had to get me into surgery and put another tube on this side for drainage. So there were 6 tubes draining out of me. God's good. He puts you in a place for a purpose. The nurses found out that I was a Christian. I would talk to them about Christ. The night staff, the workers at night, would come in and we were talking. I said, can I pray for you about something? One would say, I have a child that's looking for a church. Can you pray for her? Or I have a friend that's passed away, her husband's passed away, and I got to help her move, and I don't know how to do it. Or I have this going on in my life, or this going on in my life. Would you pray? Yes. And we prayed right then. Took him by the hand. Prayed with the tubes and all. Thing down my nose, cleaning my stomach. Feed me. Couldn't eat. Can't drink. Every day, someone would come in, and I'd pray for them. One time we had a black nurse come in, and I love this lady. She's a great lady. She came in and she had these things in her ears. She's singing a song out loud, a Christian song. And I started singing it with her. She said, I knew you was a Christian. I knew you was a man of God. I love music. And I was singing just as loud as she was. But God's good. He really is. The surgeon I did my hiatal surgery on, before I left the hospital and when I went back to visit him, I took him by the hand and said, Dr. Coppolino, I don't know if you know that, but God gave you a gift to heal people with your hands. And that's how much he loves you, to give you this gift, but he loves you even more to know that you know Jesus. And I prayed for him about Christ. And I prayed for staff members about Christ. Prayed for nurses about Christ. Shared Jesus with them. Shared him with the people on the streets. I don't care. The end is coming, and they got to know who Jesus is. And I don't want them to stand somewhere down the road in heaven and say, you didn't tell me about Jesus, when I had the chance. Just 3 weeks ago, I had surgery in Boston on my head to have cancer again. Cut it open again, 25 more stitches. I'm in the bathroom, washing my hands. There's a guy, and I had a mask. When I go out in public, I wear a mask. When I'm in church, I don't. God told me he would protect me, and I'm holding him to that. I wear a mask. I'm in the bathroom, washing my hands. This big old guy, big muscular guy, he's standing alongside of me. Why the mask? He said, I had a double lung transplant 4 months ago. 4 years ago. Did. Then he started asking questions about Christ. So we're walking out, and we're still talking about the Lord as we walk out of the bathroom, going down the sidewalk. We got to the sidewalk. I said, his name's Al. I said, Al, how can I pray for you? And I gave him some scriptures to help him because he was just coming along the way with Christ. So we prayed right there on the sidewalk. And I went to my pickup, and he went to his. We just happened to be parked behind each other. And I watched him get in his truck. He had a Bible. He told me he had a Bible. And he's reading the scriptures I told him to. I'm bragging on what Christ's done. I'm not bragging on Mike Lajoie. I don't brag on nothing. On the 16th of March, 2.5 weeks, I'm in the hospital. They told me it could be months. They have people on lung transplant lists waiting for transplants. One of them, they told me, the nurse told me about, his oxygen, his lung was so bad, they had him on oxygen, and this hose was the size of a garden hose to keep him alive. And I don't know if he ever got a transplant or not. Some people are too sick, they can't do a transplant. I had nothing wrong other than lungs. I had no high blood pressure, no diabetes, none of this stuff. God knows. When the doctors found out that it was a 7-hour ride for us from Caribou, Maine, they made fun of us because our house is 10 minutes from the Canadian border. They thought we're in nowhere land. They said, well, we got hospitals and malls and schools and stuff like that up there too. There was dry runs. A friend of mine named Brian Pelletier, he lived in Caribou. His wife Sharon used to work at the middle school as a secretary. He has had since a lung transplant 7 years ago, but he had to move downstate because his dry run to get down there to Boston, something wouldn't match. The lungs wouldn't match, or the blood type was wrong, or this was wrong, this was wrong. So he ended up moving downstate, and they stayed down there. But a number of people, it happens to them. It just doesn't match. And I had a nurse took care of me, and I can see her now. She's putting those white stockings on my feet, legs. What do you call them, Kathy? Compression socks. Yay! She put them on my feet, and she's talking. All this time, we're talking about what happened. She stopped. She looked at me. It doesn't happen that way. Your lung count was your oxygen level was that low. Usually we take it at a higher level. This was this was this, and this. It doesn't happen that way. It doesn't happen the first time everything lines up like that. It doesn't happen, Mike. It did. It did. So. And there was a lady that brought my box of medicine, like this. They were leaving. And she said, Mike, you know the stars are lined up for you. I said, no. He who created the stars lined everything into order. This is why I'm here. If I had not had the lung transplant, I would be gone by now. I'd be in heaven. And I'd have missed grandkids. I have a little one. He was riding my tractor last night. Just turned 7. I knew I was going to say it wrong. 6. My team. I would never had any time with him. He comes to my house, and I hide behind the door. He comes to the door. He screams and jumps in my arms, and away we go. Let's go ride, Papa. Okay. I wouldn't have had time with him. Nate's 3 boys, and his daughter. And Shana's our daughter. I have 6 grandkids, and I love them. And they love coming to Papa's house. My granddaughter, Nate's little girl, she said, I can't wait to get Nana at Papa's house. And her dad asked why. It smells so good in Nana's house. It smells so good. And we all know what going to Grandma's house like. She's always cooking. Before we left that day, on the last day of the hospital, a lady came up to us, and she's a representative of the state to help people out. And she asked, Catherine, have you ever heard of the Fisher House? I said, no. Well, this is an organization in Boston that helps GIs, if they're having surgery and stuff, to stay in Boston. They'll give them a motel room. Well, we'd already been there for 2.5 weeks. And Kathy had always paid for a week. It was $1,000. She said, well, have you paid the rest? And she said, no, don't pay it. Give me your ID, and I had on until I'm a veteran. And she said, I'll send it to this lady. She'll contact you and get it all taken care of. They came, paid for the 1.5 week bill. We didn't have to cover that. And every time I've had to go to Boston until the last year, they took care of a motel room. No charge. Now you got to realize that after the transplant, I would leave home on a Sunday morning, go to Boston, stay till Wednesday. Go again on Sunday morning, come back on a Wednesday for 4 months. Every week, we traveled to Boston. They didn't get out to 2 weeks. And just about 2 years ago, maybe, blood clots. They found blood clots in one in my lung, or one or two in my lungs, and one in my knee, my leg, my left leg. So they had to air flight me to Boston. And some people have asked me, why don't you just fly down? Because when I get down there, I don't know if they're going to find something wrong. I'm going to have to stay. So we just take the vehicle down. They park it and stays there until we leave. But God is good. They put a straw down here. Debbie, you know what I'm talking about, and whoever the nurses are. Put a straw from here, try to catch the clot. And they had me on medication. And they finally come out. About a couple of months later, I'm down there, pulled it out. The tubes. Doreen, you'll like this. The nurse comes in to pull the tubes out. She says, Mike, do you like to sing? And I love to sing. I really do. She says, start humming. Okay. Do another one. Up comes the other one. There's no bleeding afterwards. It sucks itself, closes itself up. They put a bandage over it. So 5 times she did that. And then the last one over here on this side, we had to wait a little longer. And they waited almost to the end of my visit and almost started growing around it. So this was going to be a little harder than it was. It came out a little harder. But I'm one of the few people in Aroostook County that God has breathed the breath of life in 2 times. And I'm a grateful man. I thank God for all he's done. There's a scripture verse I'm going to share with you that's 1 John 4:4. That says, greater is he that's in me than he that's in the world. Now, after the visit to Boston for the first time, and they told us how much it was going to cost and all this other stuff that was going to happen, and you'd have drive runs and possibly this, I'm still working. And I'm going home one afternoon, and there's a pole right here. And you know how the enemy talks to you. Mike, if you hit that pole, it'll end your life. Kathy will have a big amount of insurance money. There'll be no bills. You won't have to have a lung transplant. And all this will be taken care of. The scripture. Get you behind me. Greater is he that's in me. I can take you right to the pole. Tell you right the moment it was. Hit that pole and end it all. I can't do that. I couldn't do it. That's just how the enemy works on you. There's another verse, Isaiah 54:17. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. No weapon, I don't care what you're going through. No weapon can help you. No weapon formed against you will prosper. Nothing. There's a song I sang when I was in the hospital, and I had a tube down my throat for 12 weeks, and I went down. I weighed 183 pounds when I went into the hospital, and when I came out, I weighed 142 pounds. And my wife says he's losing too much weight too fast. And they said he's on the nutrients that he needs. Let him be. Okay. So when we traveled to Boston, week after week, she'd pull into a parking lot in Bangor about that time, 6 o'clock at night to 6 o'clock in the morning. I was on the feeding tube. She'd pull in the parking lot. I'm in the back seat because I can't be in the front seat, and that poor lady's driving to Boston. Every time. White-knuckled and cursing. No, she wasn't cursing. No, I'm just kidding. But that's when she said they couldn't pay me $1 million to drive in Boston. I'd never drive again. As soon as I was able to drive, you're driving. But we'd pull over, and we'd hang your tube on the little place where you hang your coats on the side, run the tube, hook me all up, turn the machine on, and feed. We keep on going wherever we was going. If we're at the house, it's supper time, they're all sitting down eating pizza, for example, and I got my tube on, and sitting there not laughing, enjoying them, the company. And my grandson said, Papa, can you taste anything? Nope, can't taste it. It goes right on through. It does, yeah. It's just a tube. There's nothing touching my mouth. Oh, okay. 12 weeks of that. And I was in the hospital and we took it out. And I asked, they said, you can have certain things, Mike, you can have. I said, what would you like? I said, scrambled eggs. And they were good. Next day I tried oatmeal. Oh, God, no. It was like glue. I'm looking for oatmeal that we make up home here, get little lumpy stuff in it. No, so I didn't have that. But still, today, there's certain things I can't have. I can't have grapefruit juice, and I love grapefruit juice, always have. I've always had my eggs over medium, cannot have any yolk. They have to be fried hard like a sandwich. You're going to make a sandwich, or scrambled hard. They can't be scrambled with juicy stuff in them. They have to be scrambled hard. No soda, no bubbly stuff, no fizzle stuff, nothing like that. Water, and I love water. So when we go out to someplace to eat, she'll get a soda once in a while. I say, yep, that's what it tastes like. Leave it alone. But I love Christ. I really do. And Proverbs 18:22 says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. I have obtained favor from the Lord because I have a good wife. I'm almost done. There's a song that I used to sing in the hospital. And it's called Greater is He That's in Me than He That's in the World. And this one here is a scripture verse. But the song is Great is Thy Faithfulness. And I just want to sing a little bit of the verse to you. Great is Thy faithfulness, O God my Father. There is no shadow of turning with Thee. Thou changest not Thy compassions, they fail not. As Thou hast been, Thou forever will be. Great is Thy faithfulness. Great is Thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercy I see. All I have needed, Thy hands have provided. Great is Thy faithfulness, God, unto me. Hallelujah. He's a great God. I'm going to leave with this little thing here. One more thing, I'm done. Ray Boltz sings a song, and I sing it once in a while, called The Anchor Holds. And if you heard the song, it talks about the ship being out in a storm, and the sails all being tattered and torn and being tossed about. And sometimes our lives are that way. And if you remember the story about Peter stepping out, Lord, let me come, Lord, let me come. And he came, and he lost his eyes off of Jesus, and he started sinking. So this proves to me a couple of things. Jesus calmed storms, still does. And Peter took his eyes off Jesus, he kept falling. Two things. Got to keep our eyes on Jesus. He's a master of the wind. He will always be with us. He will never leave us. He will never forsake us. He can change anybody. I'm proof of it. And I've had to share with my class reunion 3 years ago, with my classmates. I was scared. I was scared more then than I am now, because these are people I went to school with. And they're crying too. But God is so good. And I'm so grateful to have the time to come here, the chance to come here and share this about me, what God has done. He is still a miracle-working God. He can still do, and I'm no particular person. I'm and nobody's special. But I want to be used by Christ. And I'm not afraid to talk to people about Jesus. Since the transplant, I'm a whole lot more bolder than I used to be. Can you imagine that, huh? But I tell people about Jesus, I'll pray for people anywhere. I've stopped people in Walmart, and they said they're having problems, pray for them right there. I don't care where they're at. That gentleman in the bathroom, right on the sidewalk. Doesn't matter. You ask my wife. I care about people. I've worked with kids ministry, Kathy and I, for over 40 years, leading kids to Christ. Because I don't want the kids to travel the same road we've been on. We want them to know who He is as soon as possible so they can hang on to that anchor and find out who Jesus is. Thank you.